When we look up at the stars, we usually feel a sense of wonder, right? Well, today, we're going to flip that on its head. We're diving into the dark side of the cosmos, the truly unsettling, terrifying stuff hiding out there in the void. And it all kicks off with one simple but pretty chilling question.
No, seriously, just take a second and think about that. What if, right now, the universe has a sniper rifle aimed directly at your head? Because here's the thing. In the vast, silent emptiness of space, the most violent, insane events you can imagine, they aren't just possible. They're happening. All the time.
All right, so let's jump right in. Let's talk about the kind of threat you would never, ever see coming. I'm not talking about some slow-moving asteroid we can track. Nope. We're talking about invisible death beams, and they're moving at the speed of light. Okay, so you've probably heard of a supernova, right? It's a star exploding. It's a huge, messy, chaotic blast that goes out in all directions. But a gamma ray burst, a GRB, that's something else entirely. It's surgical. Instead of a bomb, think of it like a bullet, a focused, tight beam of pure energy. It is literally a cosmic sniper shot, and it makes a supernova look like a little firecracker.
And just to give you a sense of the sheer power we're talking about here, a single GRB, which might only last for like a few seconds, it releases more energy than our sun will produce in its entire 10 billion year life. Let that sink in. The sun's entire lifetime of energy packed into a few seconds. It's an insane amount of power.
And this is where it gets truly terrifying. If one of these beams was pointed at us, well, there'd be no warning, none. 1 second you're living your life, maybe sipping a coffee, and the next, gone. The gamma rays would hit our atmosphere and just, poof, vaporize the ozone layer, instantly. Then all of us on the surface would be cooked by our own sun. It would just be over, no defense, no time to even realize what's happening. And some scientists, they think these GRBs might be the great filter. The reason the universe seems so quiet? Maybe other civilizations just got unlucky.
So, okay, we've got these sudden, violent death beams flying across the galaxy. That's unsettling. But what about the things that are a little more patient? The monsters that are just lurking in the dark, wandering the void like predators.
Now, before we get to the predator itself, let's talk about its bite. It's a process called spaghettification. And yeah, it's a kind of goofy name for something so horrifying. If you fell into a black hole, you wouldn't get crushed like you see in the movies. Oh no, the gravity pulling on your feet would be so much stronger than the gravity on your head that you'd literally be stretched and pulled apart atom by atom into this long, thin noodle of what used to be you. It's, not a great way to go.
And here's the real kicker. We think of black holes as these giant anchors at the center of galaxies, right? Well, not all of them. Some get kicked out. They become rogue black holes, just wandering through the galaxy, completely invisible. They're silent predators. And one could be headed straight for us right now, and we'd have absolutely no idea. We wouldn't see it. We wouldn't know anything was wrong until planets started getting pulled out of orbit. And by then, game over.
It's not just black holes either. The most common danger, the most obvious predator out there, is just the vacuum. Empty space. And movies get this totally wrong. You don't explode. You don't instantly freeze solid. The reality is much, much weirder. Without any air pressure holding your body together, the liquid on your tongue, in your eyes, the very moisture lining your lungs, it would all start to boil. Not from heat, but from the lack of pressure. You'd have about 15 seconds of consciousness to experience that. A truly bizarre and awful way to die.
Okay, deep breaths. So we've got death rays. We've got invisible wandering monsters. Great. But what about the stuff we can see but just can't explain? The mysteries that are so weird, they're like cosmic ghosts haunting our telescopes. So check this out. When a massive planet like Jupiter crosses in front of our sun, from our perspective, it blocks about 1% of the sun's light. Makes sense, right? Well, astronomers found this one star, they call it Tabby star, that dims by up to 22%. 22! What in the world is big enough to block that much light from a star? The sensible explanation is maybe a giant, dense swarm of comets. But the really wild idea, the one that gets everyone excited, some kind of alien megastructure. And it gets weirder. We've found these ghost galaxies. They're as huge as our own Milky Way, but they have so few stars you can practically see right through them. They're just these sad, empty cities of old, dying stars. And they totally break all the rules of galaxy formation. We have no idea how they got this way. They're just out there, haunting the cosmos.
There's this quote that really just hits the nail on the head. The universe is basically littered with cosmic horror stories waiting to bump into us. And that's the thing. We've talked about what we can see and the things that are weird. But the real horror, it might be in the stuff we can't see at all.
So let's go there. Let's talk about nothing. The horror of emptiness. The profound, overwhelming void that makes up almost everything.
I'm going to throw a number at you. 330 million light years. Just try to wrap your head around that for a second. What on earth could be 330 million light years across?
The answer is a whole lot of nothing. It's the Bootis Void, and its nickname is the Great Nothing. It is a mind-bogglingly huge patch of space that is just empty. There are almost no galaxies in it. Think about this. If we lived in the middle of that void, we would have looked up at the night sky and seen almost nothing. We wouldn't have even known other galaxies existed until, like, the 1960s. Can you imagine that level of cosmic loneliness?
And this idea of emptiness, it actually gets even worse, even more personal. Because you see, everything we know, every star, every planet, you, me, all of it, makes up less than 5% of the universe. The other 95%, we call it dark. Dark matter, which is like this invisible cosmic glue, and dark energy, this mysterious force that's pushing everything apart faster and faster. We are living on a tiny, tiny little island of normal stuff in a giant invisible ocean that we know almost nothing about.
And that invisible ocean, it's taking us somewhere. Which brings us to, well, the ultimate horror, the grand finale. Not just the end of our planet or our sun, we're talking about the end of everything, the end of the universe itself.
So, how does the story end? Well, right now, scientists have two main ideas. Option one is called the heat death. It's kind of a slow, sad, quiet ending. The universe just keeps expanding, all the stars eventually burn out, and everything just fades to black. A cold, dark, silent graveyard. But then there's option two, which is a lot more dramatic.
This one's called the Big Rip. The idea is that dark energy just keeps getting stronger, accelerating the expansion until it overpowers everything else. So, about 60 million years before the end, gravity loses and entire galaxies get torn apart. Then, maybe 3 months before the end, stars and planets fly away from each other. 30 minutes to go, and the Earth itself is ripped to pieces. And in the very last second, the force is so strong that it shreds the atoms themselves. The very fabric of reality just comes apart.
So, yeah, from death rays and invisible black holes to cosmic ghosts and the complete annihilation of reality, the universe is a pretty terrifying place. Our existence here, it's basically a cosmic glitch, a rounding error. So the final question I have for you is this: does knowing all that, knowing how fragile and impossible our existence is, does that make the silence of space more terrifying? Or does it somehow make this one brief moment we have in the light even more precious?